Welcome to the Bend Don't Break podcast. We are powered by The Source, Bend's locally owned media company and weekly newspaper. This podcast is our eddy in the rushing waters of local journalism. We are glad that you're taking some of your time to listen to us chat with the people who shape our local community. Support us through our member program at bensource.com.
Thank you to our presenting sponsor, RE/MAX Key Properties, a family-owned full-service real estate brokerage specializing in residential, luxury, commercial, new construction, and ranch and land properties. Their new state-of-the-art facility at 42 Greenwood Avenue is a modern, collaborative space and the new home of the Bend Don't Break podcast recording studio.
I'm Aaron Schweitzer, producer of this fine podcast and publisher of The Source Weekly. Today with us, we have Sharon Maier.
Kennelly. Maier Kennelly.
I almost said Kennedy earlier and I had to write it out and make sure. But Sharon Maier Kennelly. She is the executive director of the High Desert Food and Farm Alliance, which believes everyone deserves good food. They serve this belief every day with programming and food access, agricultural support, and consumer education resources. Sharon grew up on Long Island in New York and has a BA from Binghamton University in Spanish. She entered the nonprofit world more than 20 years ago and for more than a decade served as the executive director of a community center in Port Washington, New York that operated a 425-seat theater. After moving her family to Bend in September 2019, Sharon worked at the Tower Theater Foundation from March 2020 to May 2023. Sharon became the High Desert Food and Farm Alliance second executive director in June 2023. Loves her role supporting HDFFA's important work, supporting Central Oregon's food and farm network, and to create and foster community partnerships. Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
We are also supported by Crux Fermentation Project, Craft Brews, and Mountain Views. Today, we are looking at their Grade A IPA. Thank you. Sharon, how did you manage to end up coming from New York? Was it straight from New York to the Tower Theater?
No, yeah. So this is actually my second time living in Oregon.
Okay.
I had lived up in the Portland area many years ago at the beginning of my marriage. And I think my husband and I just figure we are Oregonians and we needed to get back.
Yeah.
The opportunity for us to get back to Oregon came specifically to Bend because he actually got a job at COCC. He's a professor up there.
Oh, great.
So we landed here. I have a long-time arts management background, so I actively sought employment at the Tower Theater.
Yeah. I mean, your background is in arts and culture. How do you, what made you make the pivot to something like HDFFA?
Yeah, I loved working at the Tower. It's notable that I started 2 weeks before the pandemic. I was their manager of corporate giving, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, everyone's at home. How do you manage that?
Right.
It was really wonderful 3 years there. But I noticed, I just happened to see the tagline, everyone deserves good food. I'm like, yes, they do. And how can I get involved? And so it happened to be the executive director position. I was like, oh, let me just see. And
that's great.
And I saw.
Yeah. Well, maybe in brief, just talk a little bit about HDFFA itself for people who don't know. I mean, there's such a wide breadth of services and relationships surrounding your organization, but can you encapsulate it?
Yeah. So, again, we're founded on the belief that everyone deserves good food, but we really service that belief through holistic work through the food systems.
Okay.
So we have what we call 3 pillars of programming. So we work in food access, we work in agricultural support, and we work in education, like consumer education.
Okay.
So you and I can know, and everyone watching can know where to find locally sourced food and actually just why and how it's so important to our local economy and everyone's health. So for all those reasons, we work throughout the Tri-County area, from Lapine to Warm Springs is how we defined our north to south. And Dido is actually almost the size of New Hampshire. our geographic region that we service, which is pretty significant.
Yeah. So you're the executive director of basically the New Hampshire Food and Farm Alliance.
That's right. Exactly.
So, I mean, when was your organization founded?
2012.
And you're the second executive director, so you inherited, I know, a pretty strong program. What are the things that have been your initiatives? What are the things that you've wanted to do with HDFFA?
Yeah, so one of the things that we think is critical is, so our food access work has always been very dependent on the growing season. So we work with farmers throughout the region on our three main programs, and I can go into more detail about them. Sure. But kind of the bigger picture, like you said, is we wanted to go beyond the season. You know, food access work is critical year round. So we know that we want to still support local in every capacity, but we also wanted to expand. So we did a pilot program thanks to the support of First Interstate Bank a couple winters ago, and ran our Veggie RX program throughout the winter season. And that was really exciting. We worked with our nonprofit partner Locavore, and ran it there because the seasonality of the produce is changed in the winter, but they always source from independent farmers. Right. And we thought that was really important to support as well.
One of the things I'm fascinated by with regard to food and the kind of work that you do is you are a political melting pot at a time when politics are, tense. Let's just use that word for lack of a stronger one. But in food, in the food nonprofit world, and working with farmers, those questions don't come up as much, and I find it a fascinating kind of realm. That's got to be interesting for you at these times, kind of intersecting in that community.
Yeah, Yes, and so we are certainly impacted by policy on every level, right? Particularly, federal funding at this moment in time, and we're really watching carefully as some of the federal funding shifts really affect our farming community. But within that, we really stay nonpartisan. Right. We really want to make sure that everyone in that same region that we just described, the New Hampshire of Oregon, feel supported and connected to the work we do.
It's no secret for anybody who's lived here for more than a week that it's a difficult place to grow, to farm. Yeah. What are some of the services that you do to support farmers in this area?
Yeah, so we just grew our agricultural support team from one person all these years to two. So we just hired a small farms coordinator, and that was made possible by USDA funding. It's a grant we get called the Beginner Farmer Rancher Development Grant, VFR for short. And so within that work, we support both the business side of how farmers and ranchers, like the skills they need to run an effective business, to have a viable living. So marketing support, business support. We work with you guys on our food and farm directory, which, and then we also run the High Desert Food Trail, which is really how to access agritourism sites. Yeah, sure. So we use ourselves as a platform for getting consumers to be able to buy for farmers, getting farmers to understand what they need to market their business. We've sent a photographer out to farms for photo shoots so they can put together their websites and that sort of thing. And then the small farms coordinator is actually working in deep collaboration with colleagues at OSU Extension, so that as technical questions come up by farmers and ranchers, we can help find those answers. So whether it be from soil to how to farm organically, and we're actually involved in an Oregon Tilth or organic farming. Yeah,
do you help with certification programs? And
we help make those connections. Yeah. So we're not doing that direct work, but So we're all about the connections and being the resource so people can come to us and then we get them to the right people.
How about aiding in getting farmer food to market? I know you mentioned Locavore is a partner of yours. Is that a service that you guys offer to farmers, or how does that?
So so again with that USDA grant, we are putting together a cohort that's going to begin a learning cohort that's going to begin in the fall, and it's all of that. So how to get to market. We have worked with some farms directly that weren't necessarily ready to go to market, and given them contracts through our food access work. So our main food access programs are Grow and Give, Fresh Harvest Kits, and Veggie RX. And so we contract with farmers for that produce. So like last year alone, we actually did direct payments of over $112,000 to farmers for each of those programs. So we buy the produce.
For each of them. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, and can I indulge and tell you a little bit more
deep
about?
Dive, yeah, it's on the three for sure.
So let me start with Grow and Give because this summer is our 10th year of Grow and Give, which is super exciting. So each year we collect produce that would otherwise go to waste. And that we do that on farms. So after a farmer were to harvest their fields, we go out and send our volunteer glean teams. So an opportunity for volunteers. Come join our glean team. And then we also glean at the end of farmers markets.
Okay.
And then we also collect from community gardens or just if you and I like have an excess of whatever it is, zucchini, tomatoes.
Zucchinis.
Good. Find our booth at the farmer's market. We have a collection booth.
Really?
Bring it. Okay. And we distribute it throughout the region. So Neighbor Impact, who is also impacted, unfortunately, from these federal funds, we bring quite a bit of the produce to them, and sometimes just directly to like Bethlehem Inn or Family Kitchen.
Right.
So last year alone, we collected 31,000 pounds of produce. And this year, our 10th year, we want to collect even more, way more. And so with community involvement, we can help reduce that food waste and bring it to the people who are experiencing food insecurity.
I feel like I had at least 1,000 pounds of wasted zucchini. So if people actually got motivated, I'm sure you could double that number.
Yeah.
In squashes and zucchinis alone.
For sure. Yeah.
That's all it seems to grow in my garden.
Yeah. And not for our community gardeners, but for our farmers who are partners. And we define partners by, you're in our directory, you signed up. To become a partner of ours, it's it ranges from $50 to $150, so it's not a financial burden. We actually reimburse the farmers for the produce that they we glean from their farms. You do? So okay. Yeah, so it's another way the community can get involved because we are going to be actively seeking even more funding for the to make sure this can last another 10 years or more. Yeah.
When you in this current environment where there is a lot of federal funding getting cut, where do you look for to get that funding? Is it just individual local donations, state grants? Where do you go to now?
Yeah, some state, some a lot of local foundations, and then the community involvement. We really do look for donations throughout our community. 2 years ago, we introduced a new fundraising event called the Super Bowl. So it is held the day before the Super Bowl, the other Super Bowl, the non-insignificant one, and it's a soup tasting event. So on the donations, on the support side, we look for sponsorships, and then we have the ticket price is actually pretty nominal for a fundraising event. It was $25. But all of that money gets
very reasonable.
So when you go, it's a soup tasting event. So we have 13 different restaurants, each with little samples of soup.
Fun.
And then you get to vote. So people get to vote for their favorite soup. So the first year in 2024, the winner was Mountain Burger with a vegan corn curry, and they were really excited to put a vegan soup that nobody knew that they even did vegan. It was all about burgers, right? So, and then last year it was Your Mom's Cafe with it was really
that's great.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned it briefly, and I'm certainly familiar with the work you do with Neighbor Impact. And again, another organization that's we know recently has experienced a lot of cuts at the federal level. Maybe talk a little bit more about your connection to them, because you've been connected with them for quite a while now.
Yeah, so it's really through that Grow and Give program. So through Grow and Give, we do all these, so up until last summer, when we had received some really generous funding from a private donor and Oregon Community Foundation, when we bought a huge van for Grow and Give.
Okay.
We were actually using their box truck quite a bit for the program. So we would start there, take their box truck, go out in the fields, and then bring the produce back. And we weigh like every tomato, potato, we weigh it all and then provide it to them.
Right.
And then they distribute it throughout the region to make sure it's equitable access to good, healthy, fresh food, locally grown produce in the Tri-County area. So now we do have our own van, but we still like to use them as the distribution point. So we're hopeful that program can continue in that manner. I know they're being hit hard right now.
Right. This is always kind of a litmus test of whether you're a half full, half empty kind of person. But in terms of the way that, let's just take Central Oregon is trending towards knowledge that, maybe you don't want to buy, GMO foods and food information. And do you feel like that's ticking up even with the headwinds at the federal level? Or is it something where people, the elections seem to be all about, oh my gosh, you got to get down my price of eggs or I'm not going to make it. But it's such a broader discussion. How do you feel about people's just general population's knowledge of, food scarcity issues, the kind of things that you deal with on a regular basis?
Yeah.
Because it hasn't been in the public spotlight the way I feel like it's starting to come forward within maybe the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. I think, one thing, and this is on us to get that education out, but last year, if you put together prices of, if you went to the farmer's market during the summer versus the prices at the supermarket, they were pretty much the same. So we were trying to push that message out, but having this opportunity and to tell your
I would not have guessed that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, buying locally is healthier and really is not, I think people do have it in their heads, oh, I can't afford it. But I think if you look side by side, the differences aren't going to be significant. And the one beautiful thing about specifically the downtown Bend Farmers Market is they accept SNAP dollars, they accept double up food bucks. So if you are, if you have access to those, it will stretch those dollars even more.
Yeah, I mean, the popularity of the farmers market has become incredible. Like it seems like people are embracing it because it seems very popular. It's very packed during those days. I know the Saturday farmers market in Northwest Crossing has also experienced incredible growth since the pandemic. And maybe it's a plus of the pandemic that people got readjusted, a little back crack for going to shop at those kind of things. But I would have thought they were, I think, maybe I'm just aging out of pricing this stuff, but I would have thought it was more expensive,
Oftentimes, no. I mean, certainly sometimes, but not exclusively. Yeah. And I think, so throughout our area, again, because our service area is so large, there are farmers markets in every community. And we actually, as an organization, are really deeply committed to trying to support each of those farmers markets. So so we are regularly going to be at the downtown Bend Farmers Market and the Northwest Crossing. We'll also be on a weekly basis at the Sisters Farmers Market.
Oh, great.
We actually are going to be administering our Veggie RX program at both Downtown Bend and Sisters Farmers Markets. And then throughout the season, we'll be at each of the other farmers markets doing samplings. So not on a weekly basis, but we'll publish the schedule on our website. Cool. Yeah.
You didn't, you mentioned the program Veggie RX, which has a great name, but what is that program?
Describe it. Yeah. So it is.
You rub yourself with carrots. And
No, and everything's the healing power, you turn orange. So it is a food as medicine approach.
Yeah.
Basically, if you are experiencing any kind of food, if you're experiencing food insecurity and any kind of underlying health condition that can be modified by better diet, you can get...
Which seems like everything, but...
Yeah. Everything from heart to diabetes and just about any. Mental health.
Yeah.
So you get a prescription from a provider, and then you can enter our program. And so this summer, we're going to be administering the program in Downtown Bend Farmers Market and a bunch of others, but I'll stick to that one for a second. It'll be 15 weeks of fresh produce. You come to our booth when you get to the farmers market, and then you get tokens that you can use at the participating vendors.
Yeah.
And then again, if you have double up food bucks and SNAP, whatever, that $30, $40, just
that's amazing.
Yeah. So it's a
and
weekly dose.
They get a referral to you from a health practitioner.
Yeah, it can be
provider.
A number, and we will accept quite a range on that. Yeah. So it's a great program, and I will put my plug on because as every executive director has to. So this particular program is largely funded by a USDA grant called GUSNIP, as well as additional funding from Central Oregon Health Council. But that GUSNIP program is ending September 15th.
Wow!
And typically by now we would have reapplied for another 3-year funding.
Right.
There are no federal funds to apply for right now. So anyone interested in food as medicine approach, this is your moment.
Well, we were talking in our editorial meeting, I think it's the editorial that's in the paper this week, just being distributed, but how, the philosophy, as I understand it, if you're cutting the federal government, is that you're driving the balance of those funds back to state and local level. It's not that people are supposed to do without. It's not supposed to be cruel, even though it feels very cruel in the way it's being implemented, in my opinion. But they're supposed to step. The state's supposed to step. So all the people who support this kind of reduction, if you're listening, this is your time to step in and fund things like, Food RX, because man, what a great program.
Yeah, it's great. So last year we had about 107. So we run it in a few different cohorts. So we run it in Downtown Bend as that shopping model. We're going to be doing the same for the first time ever in the Sisters Farmers Market.
Right.
And then we have a delivery model in Madras. We have a pickup location in Warm Springs.
Yeah.
And then we're also introducing a pickup location in Prineville. And by pickup, what I mean is it's like a CSA box filled with a week's worth of vegetables.
Oh, yeah. Do the health practitioners in the community, do they know about the program? I mean, how many of them? I mean, is it a lot of the practitioners know that they can write this script and?
Well, you're helping us get to more, I'm sure. But we are not at a loss for people coming in. Yeah, so we work a lot with volunteers in medicine and medical and a lot of private doctors who really see the direct correlation between how this wonderful healthy produce can be benefiting their patients.
Yeah. Fascinating, because that is definitely under the radar. I don't think there's any doctors putting out a press release about their participation. It just happens. It's one of those things that it's fascinating what it quietly is going about. Well, you brought some. Maybe we should brag a little bit and have some of your stats. Like, what are throw some numbers at us?
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
so,
which is fun.
Yeah, so I'll start with 2024 alone.
Yeah.
So we collected in that Grow and Give program, which is that fresh produce collection. We collected over 31,000 pounds of produce. Yeah. That's about 25,000 meals worth. And we reimbursed farmers for that produce, again, that would have otherwise gone to waste, over $18,000.
I find that fascinating that they're getting reimbursed. I mean, what an amazing thing, because they're not going to harvest that. That's your volunteers going and getting it after the plow's already gone through or the harvester. So
right. So it's
so cool.
Yeah, kind of just we center our work around that farmer rancher because our food system is not healthy in Central Oregon unless those farmers and ranchers are themselves healthy.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked about Veggie RX. We had 175 participants. And
So cool.
the way we ran the program last year, we actually had over $77,000 worth of payments to farmers. That's everything.
For Veggie RX through just that program.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Yep.
Then we didn't really talk about fresh harvest kits. And these are ready to prepare meals in a bag. They feed families of 4. And they always, again, have that locally sourced produce.
Yeah.
Pantry staples. We partner with a savory spice in the old mill for whatever spice completes that particular recipe. And then recipe that's in both Spanish and English. So last year we distributed 2,400 of those kits, again, from Lapine to Warm Springs.
How do you discern eligibility for those kits?
Those are actually, so we work with partners who most of them are soup kitchens or pantries, and it's first come, first serve. However, we also have this really wonderful and expanding relationship with Council on Aging to get those kits out to Meals on Wheels.
Oh, okay.
So they predetermine who would be signing up for those. This year, thanks to some really wonderful grant foundations, we are able to expand that program so that it's going to 4 communities. So it will be Lapine, Sisters, it was exclusively in Sisters last year, Madras, and I think Prineville. Yeah. Yeah. So we're very excited about that expansion.
That seems like a good one through Council of Aging. I know my own parents are aging, and they, occasionally order the pre-made boxes that are mailed to you, which is a little horrifying, but I'm always appalled sometimes at what I find in there. I'm like, it's definitely not Veggie RX,
This is great produce.
Yeah.
And so, what was the greatest one? So we did a lot of surveying of people in that program to see that it really was warranted to expand it. One of the hidden benefits were that people who were experiencing that food insecurity and didn't necessarily weren't mobile enough to get out and get food, they now had this ready to prepare meal and could actually invite their friends over.
Oh,
so again, kind of like when you look at like that social isolation that really affects seniors.
Sure.
It allowed them to not only have a healthy meal each week for X number of weeks, but they were able to be social with it. And that was really, that wasn't the intention of the program. It was a really lovely hidden benefit.
I can see that, because that definitely has happened, where they'll invite us over.
Yeah.
Because they made the meal, and it's even though it says for 2, it's always too much for an elderly pair, and so that is tremendous.
Yeah.
Other programs?
Yeah. So our food and farm directory, you guys shared with me last year a really amazing statistic. So we distribute 32,000. You said we're the widest distribution in the area.
Yep, absolutely.
That's really exciting.
Largest newsprint publication distribution at 32,000 for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I should plug.
It's an incredible publication too. It's packed.
Yeah, and this year even more. So I have those statistics. We have 58 farms and ranches that'll be listed, and 71 food businesses that all source locally.
Wow.
So there'll be a whopping 129 or 130 listings altogether. Wow. And we went up by 8 pages.
Wow. Yeah, well, it's growing.
To accommodate this.
Yeah, more restaurants mean more pages.
Yeah, but if I can plug, everyone is invited to our launch event, which will be Friday, May 2nd at the Old Mills First Friday.
Oh,
so
great.
Find our booth at the Flag Bridge, and we'll have some treats. We'll have locally sourced lavender in lavender cookies by Rachel, the wonderful baker, and who's one of our new partners, and then Fixa Foods, some of their gluten-free spreads.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we are at the end of our time.
Oh, thanks so much.
Really appreciate you coming and sharing with us. Is there anything you'd like to say to viewers, listeners, readers, imparting? How can people find out more about, aside from picking the guide up, of course?
Yeah, pick up the guide.
But for HDFFA.
Or find us at the farmers market. It is a challenging time. We are looking, there's 2,100 nonprofits in the greater Bend area. Foundations some of them are shrinking the levels that they can support. So a lot of us are really looking, and we already talked about the federal dollars. So a lot of us really are looking to our community to say, okay, how can we help our neighbors?
Yeah.
And if you're interested in helping farmers and people who are experiencing food insecurity at the same time, HDFFA.org.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much for coming in. It's been a pleasure. And if you liked what you listened to, go on the website. You can become a member and support the Lay It Out Foundation through Buy That Way and help us keep doing cool interviews like this and supporting HDFFA.
Thank you.
Thank you. You've been listening to the Bend Don't Break podcast, powered by The Source Weekly. To read, hear, and see more of what we do, go to bensource.com.